At my sister's engagement party, my innocent 10-year-old daughter accidentally spilled red punch on her dress. My sister snapped and slapped her so hard she hit the ground crying in front of 230 guests. Before I could react, my parents did something even worse, but I warned them they'd regret it, and just 10 minutes later, I got a call from my dad, his voice shaking because Crystal exploded into light. Conversations died mid-sentence. $1,000 worth of champagne, frozen thin glasses as my 10-year-old daughter Emily pitched backward on the marble floor of Pine Hills Country Club. Her small hands splayed, her cheeks blazing with the shape of fingers that did not belong there. I was still holding her empty glass. A minute earlier, everything had been curated perfection at my sister Melissa's engagement party. Strings humming near floor-to-ceiling windows, waiters threading Mercedes and Bentley money with trays of foie gras, white orchids banking the room like cumulus clouds. It was the kind of place that made you lower your voice and straighten your posture. Melissa's dream, a flawless celebration with a ring that threw sparks and a dress that whispered Vera Wang when it moved, and then a red arc of punch, as elegant and damning as a signature, bloomed across her white dress. Here's what actually happened. Emily had asked for more punch. We walked together past the murmurs and the eyes that always weighed us. She carried her glass with both hands, concentrating so hard I could feel the effort radiating off her. A man gesturing big for a big laugh took one careless step back. The elbow, the stagger, the slow-motion slosh, the stain blooming on Melissa like a wound. "I'm so sorry, Aunt Melissa," Emily managed, voice small, terrified, honest. You could feel the room tilt. My sister, 2 years younger, forever the golden one, looked down at the red splatter on the dress that probably cost more than my rent, and then up at my daughter, and the expression that slid across her face made something prehistoric in me sit up and bare its teeth. "You little brat," she said, and her hand came up before I could move. The sound cracked the party in half. Emily toppled. The crystal glass skittered away, making a delicate, traitorous clatter. Somewhere, the strings kept playing, because musicians are trained to keep going when ships sink. For a breath, no one spoke. Then air rushed back. Gasps, a whispered, "Oh my God," the hiss of expensive fabric. Two men near the back lifted their phones without shame. American reflex, red light blinking. James, the fiancé, the Sullivan heir with the impeccable watch, stood uselessly beside his parents, face trapped between embarrassment and calculation. I dropped to my knees. Emily's breath came in wet shock bursts against my dress. The handprint on her cheek rose like something branded. I cupped her face with fingers that wouldn't stop shaking and said the most useless sentence in the English language. "It's okay," she nodded, brave creature even though it wasn't. "Look what she did to my dress." Melissa's voice knifed through the room, high and furious. She didn't look at Emily, at the child she'd knocked to the floor. She looked at the stain. "This is custom Vera Wang. Do you have any idea?" "She's a child," I said, and my voice didn't sound like mine. It sounded steadier, colder. "It was an accident." "An accident?" Melissa laughed, beautiful and mean. "She's been running around like this is a playground. This is why children don't belong at adult events." Then my parents arrived, cutting through guests like they were born to own rooms like this. They went straight to Melissa. Of course they did. "What happened to your beautiful dress?" my mother breathed, fingers hovering over the stain, like a priest over a sacrament. My father turned to me, his mouth align. "Rachel," he said, full name like a summons. "This is exactly why you shouldn't have brought a child to an adult event. Some occasions are not appropriate, particularly when a child hasn't been taught proper behavior." Behind his words, I heard a lifetime of quiet verdicts. When I broke a plate at 10, careless. When Melissa shattered a vase at 11, accidents happen. The old mathematics of our house. Emily pressed closer. I could feel her trying to make herself smaller. Fury rose in me so clean it felt like oxygen. "Proper behavior?" I asked. "My 10-year-old was just struck hard enough to hit the floor, and you're worried about a dress." "Don't be dramatic," my mother said. "It was barely a tap. Emily is clearly overreacting just like her mother." The mark on Emily's face, 5 unmistakable ovals, glowed like proof. But truth has never been currency my family valued. Around us, the room rearranged itself into rings, the nearest ring hungry, the next appalled, the far ones calculating what this would mean for their Instagram stories. The country club's security materialized at the edge of our circle, hands folded in front, eyes moving, waiting for someone with a last name to tell them what to do. "Is there a problem, ma'am?" the taller one asked. Neutral tone, soft landing. "Yes," Melissa said instantly, pointing at us as if directing traffic. "My sister and her daughter are causing a scene and need to leave." The security guard looked from Melissa to Emily's face, then to me. Something in his posture shifted. There are lines ordinary people still recognize. "Ma'am," he said to me, "would you like to step outside for a moment?" It was an exit, a gentle usher to the wings. For a second, I almost took it. Protect the child, get her out, breathe air that didn't taste like money and judgment. But then I thought of all the times we'd been taught to leave quietly, to make ourselves small, to smooth the nap of the evening so no one had to look at the stain. "No," I said. It surprised even me, the clean edge of the word. Emily straightened just a fraction. I could feel it. "We won't be leaving. I'd like to report an assault." The word detonated nicely, tidy, legal, impossible to argue with without showing your teeth. A nearby guest stopped pretending to check her lipstick and turned fully toward us. Someone else whispered the word like it tasted good. "Assault!" Melissa went the color of rust. Are you insane? She hissed. It was a slap. She ruined my dress. The guard's eyes flicked to the mark again. Did someone strike the child? He asked, and his voice was different now. Yes, I said. My sister. This is family discipline, my mother snapped, stepping in like a door. You don't call the police on family. Family doesn't exempt you from the law, I said. And she is not Emily's parent. My father leaned in, voice dropping to the kind of register you use when you want to scare someone without witnesses. Even on your sister's special day, you make it about you. Don't do this, Rachel. I pulled my phone from my bag, the way you reach for a life raft, and Melissa, because she never could resist a blow that would land, bent toward Emily and said, Sugar poison sweet, you're just like your mother, always crying for attention. That's probably why your daddy left. Emily flinched. That was the second slap. It landed cleaner than the first. Something in me went very still. I unlocked my phone, tapped 3 numbers I know better than my own birthday, and put it on speaker. 911, what's your emergency? It's strange what you notice in moments like that. The hush that sucked the room empty, the way chandeliers hum, the precise angle of my sister's chin. I met Melissa's eyes as I spoke. I need to report an assault on a minor, I said, voice clear. My 10-year-old daughter was slapped across the face by her aunt. We're at Pine Hills Country Club on Lakeview Drive. Is the child injured? The operator asked. She has a visible handprint on her face, I said, looking at Emily's brave blotched skin. She was knocked to the ground. Are you in immediate danger? Is the person who assaulted the child still present? Yes, I said, and several family members are pressuring us to leave. My mother made a small, shocked animal sound and reached for the phone. I stepped back. The security guards didn't move to stop me. Officers are on their way, the dispatcher said. Please stay on the line. A woman I didn't know, later I'd learned she was James's Aunt Catherine, took a small step closer, not into our circle, but toward it, and something about that tiny movement felt like a blessing. James's father, who had been quiet, finally found his voice. Young lady, he said, lawyerly smooth, I suggest you reconsider. The Sullivan family has significant influence in this community. False accusations have consequences. He meant my job, my mortgage, my life. Are you threatening me for protecting my child? I asked, pitching my voice just loud enough for the outer rings to hear. No one looked away. Nobody is threatening anyone, James's mother said, Polish snapping back into place. This is a misunderstanding blown out of proportion. She hurt me, Emily said. Not loud, not dramatic, just true. The kind of sentence that straightens spines. You could feel the crowd turn, almost imperceptibly, but enough. 10 minutes is a long time in a room like that. Long enough for 100 tiny calculations. Long enough for everyone to decide who they are when it isn't easy. I took photos. Emily's cheek, the handprint that made my stomach roll. Melissa's dress, the red stain she thought was the crime. Melissa sputtered about documentation. My father threatened to cut me off from a thing I'd never had. My mother tried the old tricks, minimize, belittle, scold, but the words slid off like water on lacquer. And then, because real life sometimes does gift you an entrance, the officers arrived. Blue uniforms at the edge of a ballroom where the flowers probably had their own florist. The taller one conferred with security. The other, Officer Lopez, 40-ish, steady, knelt to Emily's level and introduced herself like my daughter was a person, not a problem. Can I take a look? She asked. Emily nodded. As the officer gently took out her phone to document the mark, the room exhaled. Rings shifted. People who had been curious became witnesses. People who had been decor became human. Officer Lopez stood, eyes moving from my daughter to my sister to the stain that had started all of this. We'll need statements, she said, and any video. I have some, Catherine said. She held up her phone like a lantern, including threats about her job. Melissa's face did something fragile. My mother's mouth opened, then shut. My father looked for a door that wasn't there. Officer Lopez didn't look at my parents. She looked at the handprint still blooming on my daughter's face. There is a visible mark, she said. We have statements corroborating the slap and the fall. This will be documented. Documented? My mother said the word like it was vulgar. You can't put this in some file. We're respectable people. This is family. Ma'am, Officer Hughes said, voice flat with practice. Family status has no bearing on the law. Catherine unlocked her phone, fingers precise, and handed it to Lopez, who watched without a twitch. The audio wasn't perfect, ballroom swallow sound, but you could hear the slap. You could see Emily hit the floor. You could hear Melissa's voice, the words about my job, and the threat that tasted like iron. That'll do, Officer Lopez said. Rachel Williams, Officer Hughes said, turning to me with a form that looked more merciful than most paper. I need your ID. We will be issuing a citation to Ms. Melissa Hart for misdemeanor assault on a minor. You will also be given information about protective orders. Melissa laughed, sharp and brittle. You're joking. No one laughed with her. Lopez faced my sister with a professionalism that, in that moment, felt like grace. Ms. Hart, she said, you're being cited for assault. You will receive a copy of the citation and a court date. You may not contact the minor or her mother until further notice. James looked at Melissa, then at his parents, then at the ceiling like it might provide a map. Melissa, he said, softer now, we need to take responsibility for this. Whose side are you on? She shot back, a whisper steel that carried. The child's, Catherine said, before anyone else could answer. Always the child's. That line traveled. You could feel it land on people who needed the prompt. Officer Lopez finished the paperwork. She asked me if we had somewhere safe to go. Home, I said, and I'll be contacting attracting an attorney. Security formed a corridor that did not feel like exile. It felt like respect. Rachel, my mother hissed, last attempt at keeping the family brand intact. Do not make this worse. Think of your position, your school, your daughter's future. I want to be the woman known for protecting her child, I said, and for once, my voice landed exactly where I needed it to. We left the ballroom with the kind of exit that wasn't quiet but was clean. Emily's small hand in mine, Catherine's eyes on our backs like a benediction. The story didn't end that night. It grew legs and teeth. On Monday, I called Attorney Patel, recommended by another teacher who disentangled herself from a bad story. We'll file for a temporary restraining order first thing, she said. We'll also notify the DA, document everything. By lunchtime, the video had ricocheted across timelines. Catherine had used my name with my permission to keep the narrative from slipping into rumor. Melissa's name was there too because a country club guest had tagged a dress and the algorithm did the rest. My principal called, "We're placing you on paid administrative leave for the week, not as punishment, but to protect you and Emily while this spins. We'll issue a statement supporting your right to protect your child." Then another email from an address I didn't recognize. "You have been warned. The Sullivan family will make sure you never teach again." I forwarded it to Patel. "Documented," she wrote back. "If they escalate, we press charges." That night, my phone lit with a new message from Melissa, breaking the restraining order within 24 hours. "You think you won? You humiliated me. I will make sure you pay for this." I took a screenshot and dialed 3 numbers again. 911, what's your emergency? "Violation of a restraining order," I said. Same parties, same story, different day. 2 weeks later, Detective Romero called. "We've received additional footage from the club's security. There's more than one slap on record." The room seemed to tilt, not with fear this time, but with confirmation. "More than one?" I asked, even though I already knew. "Yes," she said. "We need you to come in Monday. This may not be just your story." At the precinct, Romero showed me 3 clips, different parties, different children, same Melissa, same practice slap, a girl named Ava, 11, whose parents worked at the club and couldn't report, a nanny with a toddler who left employment a week later, a teenage server named Luce who quit after Melissa grabbed her arm hard enough to leave marks. "How many?" I asked. My voice didn't break. It bent, in that way metal does right before it takes a new shape. "Those 3 are clean, enough for charges. The DA is considering a pattern count." I pressed my palms flat on the table to keep from floating off. The room that had tried to convince me I was singular, the difficult sister, the overreacting mother, had company, echoes. The tapes didn't just hold me, they held a chorus. Over the following weeks, they came forward. Rosa, the nanny, who'd been scared, but whose 4-year-old daughter deserved a kind world. Luce, the 17-year-old server, standing on my sidewalk with nerves you could see from 3 floors up, saying thank you because no one had ever called it what it was. The DA filed new charges. The video evidence showed pattern. A plea offer came. Mandatory classes, probation, community service, fines, no contact extended for 2 years, admission of wrongdoing on the record, public apology, and permanent revocation from the club. Melissa's lawyer tried to rebrand the slap as discipline, the mark as drama, my call as hysteria. But the judge looked at the video, looked at Emily's photo, looked at me. "I am not asking for punishment," I said. "I am asking for safety." On sentencing day, the courthouse smelled like paper and old coffee and nerves reheated from the day before. I stood at the lectern with my victim impact statement. The paper in my hand felt heavier than its weight. I read about Emily's cheek and how sound can become a room you cannot get out of. I read about girls who kept working because what else do kids do under chandeliers? I read about a child who learned the word discombobulated and about systems that like silence and the loud mercy of people who don't. I read about love that doesn't discipline with hands and consequences that don't restore what was taken but can keep it from being taken again. When I finished, the room held the sound of pens. Melissa stood. "I'm sorry," she said, and for once, the word didn't feel like a key card waved at a locked door. To Emily, to the other girls, to the people who had to hold what I did. I called it discipline because it was easier than calling it cruelty. I called it stress because it was easier than calling it power. I don't expect forgiveness. I will do what the court orders. The judge accepted the plea and sentenced her. 2 years probation, monitored, 180 hours of community service at an organization serving children, completion of parenting and anger interruption programs, fines directed to the Child Advocacy Center's emergency fund, no contact order extended for all victims, written apology to each victim, posted publicly by the court, prohibition from entering Pine Hills Country Club for the duration of probation, victim perspective panels where she would listen more than speak. "Ms. Williams," the judge said, voice softening without losing its edge, "thank you for your clarity. Many cases arrive here with less light. Your daughter won't remember all of this. She will remember you didn't look away." Outside the courtroom, Lou stood with her mother, both of them taller than last time. Ava's mom held a copy of the order like a passport. Rosa wiped her eyes and then laughed at herself for wiping them. Catherine watched Melissa go, something like grief and relief sharing space on her face. We walked out into a day that had the decency to be bright. The air felt earned. At the ice cream shop, Emily picked mint chip because she always picks mint chip. We sat by the window. A woman walking a dog glanced in, recognized recognized us and gave a small salute that said, "I see you, but I won't make this a thing." I saluted back with my spoon. My phone buzzed. Catherine, club board voted. Independent Oversight Committee approved with real subpoena power. Janine and I start next month. Also, the chandeliers are staying up, but the staff has authority to clear a room if anyone acts like gravity doesn't apply to them. I smiled into my napkin. Policy is not romance, but it keeps the roof on. We walked home past the park where kids were loud in the exact way that makes neighbors grateful for their own windows. Emily skipped every third crack. "Is it over now?" she asked, not testing me, just checking the weather. "The court part is," I said. "The rest is living, and we're good at that." Back at the apartment, the camera blinked us in. The dragon drawing Emily had made, with its sign reading "No slapping" in dragon letters, had migrated to the fridge. The restraining order sat on the table, paper holding the line, while we built something sturdier behind it, a spine that knew how to say no without shaking, a child who understood that love doesn't hurt, a mother who'd stopped shrinking to fit rooms that weren't built for her. That evening, Emily asked, "Do you think the chandeliers miss us?" "They'll be fine," I said. "They have to learn to hang without hurting anyone." "Gravity helps," she said solemnly. "It does," I agreed. And somewhere under a ceiling that had loved its reflection too much, someone was learning a new lesson, that silence isn't the only way to keep a room together, that the chandeliers were about to meet gravity, and gravity always wins.